As an absolute die-hard Marvel fan, I found myself in March sitting in the cinema as the lights came on and the credits started rolling, feeling confused, saddened, and just a tad empty. I was utterly disappointed with the averageness that was Captain Marvel, and I still am to this day. It saddens me to say this, but Captain Marvel is a very flawed film that easily could have been much better, if it weren't for the odd or poor choices made by those behind the camera. Now I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you shouldn't like the film, because really, I just wish I did too. But I wanted to throw my hat in the ring and talk about why this origin story just doesn't quite work. I believe that there are 4 reasons why this film just doesn't work well for me. None of them are particularly linked together, but simply sit apart as individual issues the film is never able to overcome. That said, there are plenty of tiny issues that plague the film as well, such as occasionally dodgy special effects, a wasted and very forgettable soundtrack, Coulson being in the movie for a total of 4 seconds simply for fan service that barely impacts the plot, Ronan's 0.6 seconds of screen time again simply for fan service that barely impacts the plot, and a series of one-liners from Carol Danvers that are either awkward or don't stick the landing at all.
Can't sleep.
There are tabs for that.
Yeah, but then I'd be sleeping.
You guys wouldn't happen to know how these things come off, would you? No? Fine. Oh. Yeah, I think she went that way.
And you're a Cree, a race of noble warriors.
Heroes. Noble warrior heroes.
Nice diversion.
I could have swore I put it in there.
Speaking of Carol, let's talk about my first major complaint with the film, the emotion plotline. As we see Yonrog training Carol within the opening minutes of the film, he constantly preaches to her that her emotions are going to get in the way of her controlling her powers and becoming the greatest warrior she can be.
Control it. There's nothing more dangerous to a warrior than emotion.
This instantly sets up a roadblock for our protagonist and allows potential for some great character development. However, the way that Brie Larson chooses to portray her character, whether this was her own choice or the director's, results in Carol being, well, to be blunt, quite boring and uninteresting. Except for the occasional moment of mild anger and frustration, or a chuckle at what Nick Fury just said, Carol Danvers rarely actually shows any emotion. It's always very subtle or just non-existent. I understand that she doesn't remember most of her life, and now that she's learning about her past life on Earth, she would obviously be hesitant and scared deep down, trying not to let those around her see. However, considering what she's faced with throughout the film and has to come to grips with, she rarely shows any form of, well, anything. She comes face to face with her long lost friend and simply sits there. She's given neglectful orders by Yonrog and silently stares. And she, a human, learns that her mentor / role model, who she thought was also human, is actually an intelligent alien from outer space, and reacts like this.
I would say that you're delusional, but we just got shot down by a spaceship and your blood is blue.
Even though we get one great scene where Carol freaks out in regards to all the secrets she's learned and is evidently uncomfortable with the situation, this isn't enough to make the whole emotion storyline really stick in the audience's mind, or to make her triumph over Yonrog and the Kree soldiers that much more sweeter. Instead, it becomes an afterthought that could have been applied to a different Marvel character, like Kenneth Branagh's Thor for example, with much greater success. This storyline and arc for this specific character feels unwarranted, misplaced, and above all, wasted, due to simple yet fatal character and acting choices. My next issue is how they chose to approach the friendship between Carol Danvers and Maria Rambeau. Before the film's release, many early reviews praised Lashana Lynch's performance as Maria, which turned out to be a charming and touching portrayal of the character. The reviews also praised the friendship between Maria and Carol, but I just don't see it. Though each of them start off quite well, several scenes shared between the pair get cut short or never get the time they need to fully form into something great. When Carol first returns and reunites with Maria's daughter Monica, Maria's reaction is perfect, pure shock and mourning in her eyes. And then Maria even cries to Carol due to the surreal nature of the situation. But that's where the rest of the friendship ends. The rest is shown through brief flashbacks or extended memories that also aren't given enough time to develop. And this links back to Carol's lack of emotion, where she legitimately just stares at Maria as she cries. This friendship, which should arguably be an integral aspect of Carol's life, characteristics, and journey throughout this film's runtime, is constantly cut short or pushed to the sidelines. And to be honest, I felt that Carol had a much stronger bond with Monica instead.
Fresh.
Okay, let's talk about that villain twist. There are 2 parts of this I want to discuss. Firstly, I really like the idea of subverting our expectations about the Skrull, but it just lacks any of the impact I think they were hoping for. As this is our first in-universe introduction to the Skrull, they needed to properly set up the looming threat that they were, and make us genuinely fearful of them. but instead we get some cannon fodder and weird noises. Within this film, the Skrull aren't intimidating to the audience and barely formidable to our hero, so why should it come to a surprise that Ben Mendelsohn's Talos is actually the leader of a group of Skrull that is simply good? They aren't threats, nor do they ever seem like it, and they're just trying to save their families and loved ones who have been oppressed by, plot twist, the Kree. This simply neglects the potential for a great storyline where we, the audience, grow fearful of these vile creatures only to be shocked by their innocence, instead opting to mildly confuse us and diverting our engagement into a more obvious storyline. Which leads me to the second part of the villain twist I really don't like. The Kree. I mean, obviously they were evil, right? I'm not saying this because merchandise spoiled the twist before the film came out, but because it was blatantly set up with little to no subtlety. It was obvious from the first couple of minutes, as Yon-Rogg ominously looks around, talking down to Carol for a solid 3 minutes. Minerva pretends she's a mean girl. Yon-Rogg continues to talk down to Carol by giving her orders that disregard important information she just told him, and the team communicates with Ronan the Accuser, the villain from one of Marvel's most popular films known as a Kree extremist. In addition to the clarity of the incoming twist, it doesn't even impact the audience as we never got to meet them properly or become familiar with them. We barely even know any of their names. However, the team was usually mean to Carol, so when they start fighting her in the third act, nothing truly feels like it's changed from the start of the film. The final aspect of the film worth mentioning is how it looks. Editing is average, special effects are solid, and costumes are great. But the colour choices within the film are a bland, boring wash of dirty greys, pale browns, and genuinely nothing interesting. This is specifically a big disappointment considering how good some Marvel films have looked as of late, such as Thor Ragnarok, Avengers Infinity War, and of course Guardians of the Galaxy. As an extension of this, several locations used simply hinder the film from looking memorable or even eye-catching. What's that? We have an action set piece? Cool, let's put it in a dark, empty alien spaceship. No, put it on top of another train. Nah, make them fight next to filing cabinets. Nope, make her fly around empty space for a while. No, how about we make her fight inside another dark, empty spaceship? Wait, fight Jude Law in the middle of a desert with bright lighting and no visual flair. Look, all I'm trying to say is that they should definitely fire their location scout or designer for the sequel. While this film was made with the best of intentions and attempts to tell a story of friendship, trust, and self-empowerment, it often falls flat due to the simplest of issues. Though Captain Marvel could have gone
Higher, further, faster, baby.
it simply lands with a dull thump. Oh, and don't get me started on how Fury lost his eye.
Oh, motherfucking!